Dr. Erin Shannon and Heather Marie. Now, this is going to be this. I think this could be off the charts because the reason I have both of you on here, and this is the truth, because you just say it like it is. Both of you. I've had you both on 2 separate podcasts before, and I love the transparency, the rawness, the realness. There's no bullshit when I talk to either of you. So, Dr. Shannon, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing, bud?
Excellent. I'm outside today. Does my background look different here?
Oh, are you outside?
Yeah, I'm outside. I'm at the community center, at the pool, whether they call this community center here in Verrado.
That's nice.
And I decided we finally got a degree below 119 degrees at 8 o'clock in the morning. Today is actually 78.
Nice.
And it was like people are going nuts. Yeah. And Heather, where are you at?
I'm in Minnesota currently, and we are experiencing our fall, so it's beautiful. And I mean, like brisk mornings, 50s, gets up to low 70s.
Perfect.
Gorgeous.
So, Dr. Shannon, just brings people up to date who may not have heard of you yet. Just give me a little quick background, and I'll do the same thing for you, Heather, and then we'll roll with this, okay?
Sure. Yeah. I have a doctorate in clinical psychology, and once I got my degree, ended up having a bunch of kids in rapid succession and mostly focused on that. But as I got back into work, I really started to integrate Eastern and Western philosophies. And so started to use some energy psychology and then energy medicine. And so my practice is really a blend of Eastern and Western. And my philosophy is, if it works for somebody, for something, then it's worth it. So I try to have as many tools in my toolbox as I can and not get too stuck to one ideology.
Right. And just a little deeper in that, you've been involved with major sports, that space for professional athletes for a long time.
Yeah. I mean, I guess since, birth, just because of the family I was born into and the way that I was raised, but also once I launched my private practice, somehow athletes kind of found me, and it's just easy to work with what you know. So I kind of fell into that unintentionally.
Awesome. And then you were with the St. Louis Rams. I never asked you this. Was that your first professional team you actually worked with, the Rams?
No, that was my first professional team I had to publicly acknowledge.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay, cool. Heather, a little background?
Yeah, so I very similar. I love that the Eastern and Western philosophy is that way. I started off as a complete consumer of mental health services, being somebody who battled anxiety, depression, ADHD, suicide ideation, self-harm tendencies since as early as I can remember, and really wanting to bridge the gap for folks using my lived experience as my greatest tool and vulnerabilities. So started one of the very first private practices in peer support. We are individuals who do just that. We use lived experience, and we don't serve from a clinical standpoint. We serve from that lived experience standpoint. And then I went into getting psychospiritual therapy background, and I'm still in a program called Helix that I will be graduating from that shortly. But practicing the blending of the two, very much somatics. I believe trauma is released by feeling it, not just talking about it. So I do one of my specialties is guiding people back into not rehash their trauma, but honor and acknowledge, respect, and just be with it, teaching them how to be with it. And then more importantly, it's to teach folks how to enhance their capacity to feel joy, happiness, and contentment, because so many people get to that upper part and they just can't hold it. They freak out. It's like they don't know it. That's so unfamiliar. So in that space too.
Awesome.
So having that private practice, yep, just rolling with it too, and not getting stuck on any one thing.
Right. That's awesome.
Same.
So let's dive into, like, I want to dive into mental health and their relationships. And then recently we've seen some pretty fucked up situations in our country with extreme behavior. So starting off with the mental health aspect of it, why do you think, and either one of you can go first on this, why do you think that so many people, or the better question is, do you think more people, because the statistics show that more people now are experiencing mental health issues than maybe they have in previous years? And I guess the question is, what's the biggest contributing factor? Me I'm part of that statistic. I went through 5 years of suicidal depression. It was debilitating. So I understand the pain of it all. But is there certain sociology, world events, or there's things in our society right now that are causing more people to experience this, do you think?
Well, I think that there's been a lot of problems that have been around forever that we didn't have the awareness of. We didn't have the vernacular. We didn't have the clinical guidelines for. But I think as long as there's been human beings, there's been stress and anxiety and sadness and phobias and people outside the norm that maybe did terrible things for a reason of neurobiology. But I think that right now, I would say that one of the more common contributors to what we're seeing in this widespread epidemic is that we've got access to a lot of things at our fingertips that we can't get away from. Social media and media in general really guides our life in many cases. And that constant barrage of seeing traumas or tragedies all around the world 24/7, we're not meant to handle that. And our brain doesn't know what to do with that. So we don't have as many social connections as we used to, but we have a lot of, I would say kind of not concrete connections, more diffuse connections through viewing. And so we don't have the buffer of the support system and the neuroregulation of being with each other, but we have triple, quadruple, a million times more of the inundation of the stress and violence.
What do you think, Heather?
It's exactly what I put down here. So the emotional regulation piece of like being connected in a digital format, but being so disconnected with that co-regulation. There's no co-regulation, and I put down isolation, same thing. And then having that constant input from all these different things and being flooded. I think our nervous system gets so our nervous system becomes dysregulated by going on TikTok. It does. So we're often in this, and people are just they doom scroll and they think that that's like calming them down or bringing, yes, they go to a numb place oftentimes, but there's so much deregulation in that, and then it's a constant loop. And so I also put down dopamine, like we have a dopamine problem of just being in this instant gratification, and then it's depleted. The ways it's a drop, like a dopamine dump instead of a drip. And we should, I see it in my teenage children. They get off, we're doing a month-long digital detox right now. In 2 days, I could see them better.
God, good for you,
2
man.
days.
I have an 11-year-old kid, and it's just, I got to be on his ass all the time. All the time. And do you think, okay, so are either of you, do you feel yourself have to be extremely disciplined?
Yes.
Because Heather, you're on TikTok. I see a lot of your posts coming up on TikTok, and Erin, you post sporadically, but do you think that you two of you are being affected by this in some way, or do you have to really, really be so disciplined not to become affected by it? Erin?
Well, I think that, to be in this culture and to help people that are living in this culture, we have to, at some level, understand those different platforms and be accessible on those platforms. But also, it's just like Heather said, if the platform or the inundation of stimulation is the problem, it also gets used as the medicine. And then we get into this cycle where, we're feeling a symptom or a drop in dopamine. And so we go right to social media, and that can give us a bolus, a boost of it. But then if we don't keep going back to it, then we're starting to drop again. So I think it has wired us. And I think we see generations of kids even more impacted because of the early stage critical periods where they're getting amounts of neurochemicals that our brains aren't used to as human beings. So, it's about balance, like so many things. And it's about being able to use the technology for our good, but realize when it begins to tip over to now it's becoming part of the problem.
Yep. So I love using this. I have Apple phone, so the screen time and like setting. They have mindfulness disruptions. You can like set it up, schedule it so that it blocks you during certain times. I turn off notifications, and I've modeled this and taught the kids. But I went and looked one day. It was so bad. I had spent 13 hours on my phone, and I picked my phone up 250 times because it'll calculate how many
Wow.
times you pick it up. Then I moved my icons around, and I will go to my phone totally in autopilot, and I'm like searching for Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook, and I go and I'm like, and then I come to and I go, why am I on my phone? Well, I moved my icons like 3 pages down to kind of get me out of that,
Yeah.
to
Yep.
trick, and then they go dark after an hour. And you can of course just ignore it. And there are times I do that, but at least it slows down the process so you because it's so quick. It's
Yeah. I
like a
Yeah.
think
knee-jerk
being
reaction.
mindful, anything that you can
Yes.
do, like you said,
Yep.
any mini barrier that you can put up
Right.
where you have to go through a few steps before you can log on will help with that mindless going to it out of habit. And
Mhm.
and I also think, like for me, a lot of the therapy and treatment I do is telemedicine,
Yep.
right? And so um, if I am on my computer for 8 hours doing telemedicine, doing work, then it's even more important for me to not use
Mhm.
electronic devices to get myself back into my body, and to let my brain know through my eyes, hey, it's time to look at natural light. Hey, it's time to wind down.
Mhm.
Um, and my eye strain, like it's just
So
a
true.
toxic thing for my eyes. So
Mhm.
when my eyes are hurting, I know that I have overdone it,
Mhm.
and I need to, go outside or turn the lights off. Like I don't like turning the lights on in my house. I like to use softer light. So being aware of your physical cues as well as time constrictions, is really important. But I think most of us have to interface with technology at some level just for occupational.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I mean, it's so true. So almost like a catch-22, right?
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
Heather, you're involved in a relationship, you and Joe, and I saw some great posts, you guys, some really cool, a lot of romantic posts you guys are putting up,
Mhm.
and it seems like there's a really good connection there. That's still going on, right? That's still
Yes.
current? Okay.
Yes.
All right. So the question I have for you is that do you think and people are becoming less uh what's a good word? An intimate? Because when you're so used to these digital components, the iPad, the iPhone, that digital space, and then you actually get in front of somebody, does it feel awkward at first?
So, this gentleman that I'm dating has not dated a woman for 10 years. Like he had some dates, whatever, but he never brought somebody home, right? And he was a bachelor, like, raising his kids, whatever. He picks his phone up so much, and I set a boundary right off the gate when we first started dating. I said, if you pick your phone up when I'm talking, I'm going to stop talking, and I'm going to wait until I have your full attention, or you give me your full attention. So I believe actions speak louder than words, and in that, I just said very on, like, I will be talking. If he picks his phone up, stop. I'm going to sit there and wait. And then he picks it up and puts it down. And I absolutely hate having phones in the bed. Period. Like we don't have
Right.
I don't want a TV. I don't want phones. None of it comes in the bedroom as best we can. And people are like, "Oh, my alarm, my this." I'm like, "You put that thing in the bathroom, you'll hear it. Just stop,
Yeah.
Put it in the bathroom or put it somewhere outside your bed so it's not the first thing you're grabbing at."
So has it become an issue?
Not for us, no. It
Okay.
was in my marriage. Huge.
Yeah. Well, you
Huge.
you set the boundaries pretty early on, so
Yes.
now you guys are both on the same page.
Right. I will
Are you
not. I
constant? Are
just
you
find it so
constantly on his
annoying.
ass? Are you constantly on his ass, reminding him, "Hey, man, look, I asked you to put the phone down." Is it constant, or does he
No,
understand now?
he understands because I'm not nagging. I just I like take my energy away, my access, like not in manipulative way.
I get it.
It's just I'm not gonna engage in that. I
Right.
do it with my kids too. I walk
Got
away and sit somewhere else, and they'll be like, they'll notice right away that I've stopped
got
because I can't control them. You know, they have to make that decision through an inspired change rather than like me nagging.
Sure. So, all right. So both of you have been through some divorces. And I guess the question is that I want to ask is that share some key experiences, and you can keep it brief if you want, but just because I know for a fact that right now, and I always say that if somebody's listening in this situation and is where you were, in other words, they're going through something you already been through, or they're about to step into a heap of shit because they're not adhering to the red flags. They're ignoring the red flags. So let's go with you, Heather, first. Start off with saying, okay, here's the red flags here's 2 or 3 red flags that I absolutely missed early on that I ignored. And then years later, they never went away and they still were pretty much the culprit of my divorce. What would those 2 to 3 red flags look like for you in your situation that somebody can learn from?
Yep. So number one, I admit and know that I was 50% of the problem, and I take full responsibility for that. And it was in the form of enabling and fawning. I did not exercise my agency or my sovereignty at all. And partly that was not my fault in this sense, but it was my responsibility to heal it. So that came from it mirrored my childhood, my parents to a T. I had very little emotional safety, a lot of control, enmeshment, and, codependency, all the stuff. So looking back, nervous system, knowing your nervous system, and when it becomes deactivated, like that was how I went into dating. I'm like, I know what a balanced nervous system. If this individual triggers me, or I feel XYZ, I bounce. And so
Wait, hold on.
that
When
was
you
big.
bounce, explain that. Break that down. What do you mean by bounce?
Like when I was dating, if I felt like like my nervous system getting dysregulated in their presence and their energy, and I'm super sensitive to this, like that was just a no for me right out of the gate for whatever reason. And I didn't care or have the bandwidth to like even be curious about it at that time. I was
So
just
when you
like,
say
nope,
bounce,
not for
you
me.
bounce to another relationship? Is that what you're saying?
So like when you
Bounce
date,
meaning she's out.
yeah.
Yeah, you're bouncing
But
out.
dating in this day and age, Brett, is like you feel like a serial, like you had like 3, 4 people going at a time. If that was for you. In the dating phase, the talking phase, I couldn't do that.
I got you.
So you'd go on one date with this person and I was like, nope, next,
Yeah.
like type of
Yeah.
thing.
So,
Mhm.
and then Erin, you're in the process, so you're not out there right now. And party's probably saying, "Thank God," right?
Thank the Lord, bro. Yeah.
So why is it? And Erin, you can take over. You can take this one. Why did you, in your experience dealing with people, hundreds and maybe thousands of clients over the years, patients? What is it that somebody's going to say, "Fuck the red flag. I'm staying in this thing. I'm going to ignore it. I don't care, and I'm going to just keep pursuing it," knowing damn well that they're not feeling, or they are feeling something they ought to be recognizing and paying close attention to, but we ignore it anyway. What goes on up here, Erin, that makes people do that?
Well, I think it's interesting, like red flags, you can get all these lists, right, of red flags, but they're very subjective in the way that we interpret them and the emotional response we have to them, right? So
Mhm.
what's so funny is that most of the time, the things that we fall in love with someone for end up being the same things that drive us nuts.
Mhm.
So, for example, if in the beginning stage of a relationship, the other person is giving you their full attention and is absorbed in it and loses track of time, and that makes you feel wonderful because it makes you feel like you're the only person in the world, and you're so special to them. And then fast forward and you're married with kids, and this person is losing track of time and they're so absorbed at work, or they're so absorbed in the TV show or woodworking or whatever it is, that they lose track of time. And now they're constantly late for dinner, constantly late for appointments, that you kind of interpret that as being disrespectful of your time. Well, it's really the same personality construct that this person gets extremely absorbed, but it's being used in a way, or it's being interpreted by you in a different way, and it's very hurtful. So sometimes the very thing that made us love someone, on the other end of it, it begins to elicit different neurochemicals, and we don't like it.
Mhm.
Without naming names, without sharing exactly which husband it was, what's something that stands out for you? Like, you just automatically say, this is obvious. This is an obvious. I should adhere to this one. I should have recognized this. I should have done something about it. What was it for you, Erin? One of them.
Well,
Just one more major red flag.
That first one that I just said was a really big red
Gotcha.
flag. And then when I began to realize that, and I think there's different levels of pathology of our exes. Okay. Some people are on purpose, they're Machiavellian, or they are purposeful in trying to control and harm. And that's a level of, problems that is several layers deep. Sometimes it's just a good person that develops a bad habit, or two good people that develop bad habits. But in my opinion, a great benchmark just to start a relationship off is, I need to be able to give myself
Mhm.
everything that I am hoping to get from someone else before
Mhm.
I even go out there. Because if if I go into dating, say, and I need an awful lot of self if I need a lot of statements of love from someone, if I need to hear that I am worthy, that I am lovable, that I am a good person, a kind person, all of those things, I'm going to find someone based on my wound, based on my fear. And even if it's a great person, the relationship won't work,
Mhm.
because eventually it's the fear or the deficit that takes over. And people talk about trauma bonding all the time, and people talk about, that's why you should wait and not get involved with someone. I don't think that we are very whole in ourselves most of the time, and we walk around feeling like we want someone else to complete it.
Fill that gap. Yeah.
It doesn't work. And
No.
so we got to do the stuff that all of the things that you wish you would get from a relationship, you got to figure out how to get that for yourself,
Mhm.
so that when you do end up ready for a relationship, that's a bonus.
I love that. I
That's a
I do a
huge
similar
bonus.
I do a similar exercise with the people I coach. It's like, if your partner knocked on the door and like could give you everything that you think you need or want to feel safe, wanted, chosen, etc. I teach them how to resource that from within. Because once they do that, it's you really become unstoppable, and there's this like detachment that you're not dependent on another individual to keep sustaining that, because that's where that. And I love attachment styles, but it's really easy to get caught up in like any form of conditioning and programming of like, oh, I get stuck in this box. But most people are in a with a like a dismissive avoidant, anxious avoidant, fearful avoidant dynamic, the push pull. And I think that's why I go back. I do so much nervous system and like somatic stuff, because it's about being safe in yourself. Once you have that safety, and you have to be able to keep bringing, you're responsible for your own nervous system. And so many people think that someone else is responsible for their nervous system regulation. And co-regulation is fantastic. I'm a huge advocate, but you have to be able to be familiar, have a sense of like how you can bring yourself to a place of homeostasis. And I wrote down two things for me, or three things in my marriage was like limerence, intermittent reinforcement, and he was Stockholm syndrome. He was both the hurt and the healer. He was the medicine and the poison. That is so, I am the most strong, badass woman you've ever met. And I got to a washed out, like version that was like a shell of a person. There was a time I laid on the floor in my closet for like weeks on end, and like I was almost like exactly where he wanted me to be. And it went back. I just got to say this because this is going to resonate to somebody. He got me sick. Like I was sick when we connected, back to that thing. Like I was not well when we connected. He was like the knight in shining armor. And they need to keep you there in order for that dynamic to stay working. I got well. I started loving myself. I started sourcing all that from within. And then the house of cards fell too, right? It just didn't work anymore because we weren't playing that. I wasn't playing the part. And he wanted to keep playing that part. So
Okay, so was there physical abuse in there too, Heather?
not well, yeah, I guess I'll say physical if it's like intimidation, like getting in your face, pounding things. Like he never physically hit me, which at times I wish he did. I always say because it would give me like, it's so sad that gives you like, hey, look at this bruise. I can see this bruise, so I'm gonna leave. They were all internal and like death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah.
Gotcha. What are you gonna say, Erin?
Oh, I was just gonna say that's a great example of, in an unhealthy dynamic, or when one person is not flexible enough to grow,
Yeah.
then the relationship can only be at the level of the least healthy person's ability to tolerate that growth.
Yep.
And, every human being evolves daily, right? I am not the same person I was 2 days ago, 2 weeks ago, 2 months ago, 2 years ago, 20 years ago. So when we meet someone, we're meeting them where we are, but we have to make sure that we're able to have the capacity to be flexible and grow so that we can meet each other each day where we are, because it will not stay the same. And people say, well, you're not the same person I married. Well, of course not.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that could go in the opposite direction though, too. I mean, that could be like, hey, I married somebody who I was in love with. Now I'm not in love with this person. So it can go either way. So my question that I want to pick up on before I forget, because I will forget, I got all these questions like a loop in my head. Heather, you had said in the very beginning of this interview that you were 50% of the problem.
Yep.
Now, if you talk to that previous husband of yours, he's gonna have he's gonna have a totally different story, and he's gonna tell his side of the story. And he, in his mind, he's right. In your mind, you're right. So when you say you're 50% of the problem, what exactly do you mean? Were you enabling him? Is that the part you take responsibility for?
Yes, enabling. And like, so the level of fawning, and that's my nervous system response mostly. I fought and flighted in that, but fawning is you feel incapable of using your voice, putting a boundary. It's just the yes person, right? Over functioning, over giving, overdoing. And that was also rooted in I thought love was to be earned. I really thought if I did this, he would love me.
Yeah.
And it was when we had an intervention, I had to do an intervention with him. He had been working with a female coach for a year. And he said, if it wasn't for her, I would have killed myself by now. And
Wow.
I'm over here, I look at him and I go, I raised these children. I held the house down. I was his rock. We were married 18 years, together 21 years. And I realized in that moment, it wasn't what I do for people, it's how you make them feel.
Right, exactly.
He had no respect for me. In fact, he was disgusted by me because I became his mother. And he and his mother do not have a good relationship. He's very resentful, can't stand her, whatever. That's what he saw when he looked at me. He didn't see his wife, his lover, he saw his mother. And I thought I was being a good wife. So that's the part when I say I take personal responsibility. A good wife in a feminine energy is not going to allow the things that I allowed. And it would just be standing again in that sovereignty and agency of like, hey, listen, I deserve respect, and I deserve you to contain my energy and provide a safety, not just money, and protect this family, right? Like, and then I would step away. Now I
Yeah.
have 3 pillars of boundaries that I live and die by. And it makes me a kind, awesome person. I'm not a bitch or controlling. it's like I'm not here to shapeshift anything to get you to like me.
Okay, good. I said you
So.
you read my mind, taking us right to the next question, because I think both of you are going to have some input on this, and that is, you have to do so much work. We do so much work on ourselves to get through this fucking nightmare, right? Of a relationship, marriage, whatever it is. True, right? Yeah, and then
I like that.
then you come out the other side of it, and it's almost like, oh, hey, I really don't need anybody right now, and you go so far right that it almost puts you in the category of like, hey, I'm good. Whether you like this or not, is that true? Is that going on up here psychologically? I mean, you know this, Erin. You deal with a lot of people. Is there something in our brain that says, okay, hey, I did so much work. I know who the hell I am now. I got it. I'm good. And if you want part of this, cool. If not, fuck it. I'm okay without you. Is that the attitude?
That's the only way to go into a relationship.
Yep.
And I know that sounds insane. Okay. Because how many people out there are like that? But that, again, look at our divorce rate. Look at how many people out there have a happy marriage. It's like just what Heather said, when Heather said she felt like she had to do something to earn, fill in the blank of anything.
Mm-hmm.
And if I go into a relationship feeling like in order to earn respect, honesty, affection, time, truth, then forget it. If I go into a relationship and I know I don't have to earn those things, those are just standard operating procedures here, then it sets a different container for that relationship. We don't do those things. We don't teach our children to do those things. And if we go into it based on, you need to give me these things, because if without these things, I'm not safe, I'm not functional, I begin to go into a different narrative, it's destined for failure. And it really, like Heather said, she takes 50%. My guess is the other person wouldn't take 50%. But if you can take 50% of, that's all you have 100% of your responsibility, right, and 50% of the relationship responsibility. And when you start to take 51%, here it goes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the one thing too that I said, like, I also, back to that codependency, I really thought I was responsible for how other people should feel and be, etc. And so that distinction, that separation in a loving way of like, I'm going to present this boundary, assert myself. It's not my responsibility how you choose to digest that information. And then again, the more clear you can be, the more kind and upfront I say these things. I'm not going to be a broken record. And I did have to assert a boundary. I will say this, where it was once I will remove myself from the room, right? Like for certain things. 2, I remove myself from the house, the wherever we are. 3, I'll remove myself from the relationship. It's like, and there are different variations to that, right? Like it's a spectrum of stuff, but that's what's going to be expected, and expectations not communicated, they're just thoughts.
That's right.
So I'm very good at expressing those and communicating.
Okay. And then, so do you find yourself now being, because it can happen, right? Especially you're fresh into a brand new relationship. And I may have asked one of you or both of you this a while back. I don't remember. Do you feel like because there's a difference between quirks, right, and red flags. Everybody has quirks. So, but are you hypersensitive now that you got all this work? Like, oh, here we go again. That motherfucker. Here we go. I got Joe. It's like, and Joe's like, bro, just chill. It's my quirk.
He asked me. He's like, he knows. He's very smart too. Like he's not just like, he's like, I think you're, you with a loving mind. He's not like, it wasn't saying this to be hurtful, but he's like, I think you are hyper vigilant and just projecting, and like, and here's what I realize: the insecurity. I am so afraid to make a mistake again by not seeing something. And so that's something I have to work through, and not put that on him, project, or try to get him to do whatever. But communicating that was really helpful. And then he's like, yeah, I see that. I see how you can, like, I'm almost like, you go looking for dirt, you're going to find it. Period.
Right. And I think too, understanding that perception is reality, right? Like a red flag, it might be a green flag. and it looks like a red flag because you're coming from that hyper startle post-traumatic
Yes, totally.
relationship. And you have to be at a point where, you know, like Heather says, I am so afraid to make a mistake again. You can't live life like that because we make mistakes all day, every day. You're going to make mistakes. You have to know that I'm going to be okay when I make a mistake.
Exactly.
And that is the basic level that you should be going into a relationship. And I think a lot of us go into a relationship and we're almost thinking by default, this is going to work out. What are you talking about, bro? Like there's billions of people out there.
Exactly.
Trillions of different interactions that are going to, the odds of it are not, you know, I should expect behaviors. I should expect relationships to go this way. And if they don't, it's my problem. Something's wrong with me. That's silly.
Yeah.
You've got to go into it with enough of your own self-love and self-esteem and self-respect bolstered, because it's going to get tripped. And you, in order to even evaluate, was that malicious, intentional, accidental? Was that me being hypersensitive or projecting my shit onto you? You've got to be able to tolerate the mistake long enough to assess that and then communicate it and interact with it. If you're like, I'm not even going to come close to a mistake, and that's go right into a mistake.
Exactly. And I was going to say that the part that I love so much is that, like, I faced so much adversity throughout my life where I have a really good system in this. Marriage was the thing. I should reiterate that marriage. And again, I'm not necessarily dating for that at this point, you know, type of thing. But what I was going to say there. Oh, if anything, I'm the first person to say, yeah, it was my fault. Like, that's something I've realized too. I don't have to like take full responsibility just like that, but repair. That's what I was going to get, the repair part. Hey, listen, I said this, I did this, I own up to it, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I'm willing to work on this. And I'm very mindful of it, you know, please forgive me type of thing.
Just doing that is a way that we can take something that could be looked at as a negative and you know, alchemize it into a positive.
Exactly.
But what does need to happen is, you know, if you're a person that is the first one always to say sorry, or you don't like conflict, or, you know, for whatever reason, you have to be able to go into that conversation of repair where you're taking responsibility for your actions, but also the other person is hearing it and doesn't use it against you. One, but also becomes a better partner because of their awareness of it. And in a loving way, helps you work on it together. And I think that when you come from a relationship that might have been abusive in any way, you're used to your deficits being used against you.
Oh, yeah.
So then it becomes making sure that you get to a place where you don't need someone's reassurance to be a mess, because we're all a mess.
Yeah.
So let me give you both. I'm gonna give you both. As you're talking, I'm listening, and I have this example of a situation that came up for me personally, and you give me both your inputs on this. So I had a follower on TikTok. We had got to know each other a little bit, and through conversation. And this person, she is promoting herself as a high value woman. Okay, she talks about how her narcissistic relationship was awful, and she just was mentally, emotionally abused. The kids are in the middle of it, all this and that. Okay, so fast forward to her and I had a couple conversations, you know, phone conversations, and then one of my conversations, she's in Tennessee, and she's gets a podcast launch. She's trying to get a break into the music industry, and so one of my messages to her was, hey, how's things? One weekend I just left here the gym, had the sunroof open. I'm feeling pretty amped up. You know, when I leave the gym, I'm pretty amped up. So I'm driving in the car, And I dropped this message. I just say, hey, how'd it go this weekend, this and that. And she hit me back saying, with just a drop of a response. I'm like, bro, come on. And I voicemailed her. I voice texted her back and I said, that's it. That's all you got. I said, come on, you're out there with Keith Urban, and did you get your record deal signed? And I'm being vulnerable, like Brene Brown says. Come on, bro. And I was just like over the top. And she texts me back saying, I don't appreciate that tone. I don't appreciate that type of thing. We're done. And she says, we're not talking ever again. I'm like, I had to read it twice. I said, are you, like, read the text again. I said, are you joking? I said, do me a favor, please send me that voice recording. Okay, so I heard it. And I know that if you don't know who I am, you both know me pretty fairly well. But I think in my heart, if I would have left you that exact, and I wish I had the technology here to play that friggin' message, because I still have it on my phone. I really believe I would have dropped the same message on either one of you. You would have been hit it back, or you would have said, bro, I wasn't sure. Were you really, I don't know, what, were you upset? Were you this and that? Just do me a favor next time, just kind of tone it down a little bit, right? She just says, I'm done. We're no more conversation. And I'm thinking, okay, you're a high value woman. Don't you think a high value woman would say, okay, maybe we should, I want to have a question about this text. And she would ask, and she would inquire. And my point is this. I always ask myself the question, how would I respond to somebody else's message like that? And I heard it back. I'm thinking, I wouldn't have cut the person off, especially because of the little bit of history we already had, talking with each other, being on podcasts and so on and so forth. And I want to get your point on this. From what I'm sharing with you, what does that sound like to you? Go ahead, Erin. Start off with this.
It just sounds like a mismatch in behavioral states and in emotional states. And I think that when your boundaries are not, look, boundaries are rules for yourself, right? And because you can't control someone else.
Right.
And when let me just say it like this. You were looking for someone to match your emotional state.
Right. Hit it back. Right.
You're high on all kind of chemicals and you wanted somebody to be like, yeah, bro. And she was just like, dog. Right. And maybe she went a couple steps further and saying, one strike, you're out, because that's the emotional state she's in. She doesn't have the ability to tolerate or be flexible or put herself in your shoes. The biggest mistake we make, I think, is thinking that we can, with our own personal schemas and mindsets and experiences and perceptions, get in the mind of somebody else and say, well, I would not react like that. It doesn't matter what you would do because you're not her. And the more activated we are, the less likely we're going to be able to understand another person. So you can't get into the mind of someone else because you have no concept of what's going on, multitude of crap that's going on and the way that it impacts. Like two people could be in the exact same situation, the exact same stressors. One person loves it. The other person, dysregulates and is, sucking their thumb, rocking in the corner. And both went through the same external stimulus, but there is no such thing as external reality. There is only the perception, and we can only see it through the nervous system that we own. Yeah.
And here's what and to your point, I apologized in a way that I would say here, that wasn't my intention. My intention was, and I explained it, but she didn't want to hear anything about it. I think that because, like you said, the emotional state she's in, she could have still have dealing with some, I'm thinking it was a very big trigger for her because of everything she's been through. And I also say this, I say, when there's a disagreement like that, and I can honestly say, if I were you, I would feel the same way. Because if I was her, I would feel the same way, right?
Yeah.
So I accept it for everything it was. For everything it was, I just
do not personalize it.
Yeah, exactly. I accept it. That's what it is. Heather, what are you going to say?
Yeah, I want to say, so, okay, two parts here. I think that boundaries are kind of like credit. You don't want to have like bad credit or no credit, right? And it's like if you have no boundaries, it's bad. And if you're too rigid, it's also it's not that it's bad, but it's like I find people that's just out of control and fear to me are the same thing.
Yeah.
It's a missed opportunity, like that she's in a place of high emotion and then her intelligence is low, right? There's no logic, reason, etc. If it's just kind of in that react. Because when people are balanced and stable, they're able to respond rather than react. It sounded like a reaction,
Mm.
which has nothing to do with you. And although I can, I get the personal aspect of that because people like you and I, Brett, who are big and all this and that, we've been told most of our lives, you're too much, you're loud, you're annoying, you're this, you're that. So when somebody highlights that, it's an opportunity for you to sit with that rejection or that like mirror back or you're too much
Mhm.
and sit with it deeper and longer if you can, rather than trying to explain, fix, or make it better with her. Stay in your body as long as you can. And I always, 100% of the time, rejection is protection and redirection. It's for you. It's good. I'd be
Yeah.
like,
No,
thank you.
I said, yeah, I did. You know what? I just got hand to God, and everything I've been. If I didn't go through everything I've been through those 5 years, I would have handled it a little differently and tried to be, But
Yeah.
I actually said, thank you. I
Yeah.
see your point. I appreciate you, and I can hear how you would actually. I hear how that could be taken out of context, and I
Sure.
appreciate and I respect. I wasn't trying to say, please, none of
Yeah.
that. I accept it for what it is. I learn
Yeah.
from it. Let's move on. So that's great. Um, the question I had, and I knew I was gonna lose it again, is that when people come to you, either one of you, clients come to you, what's actually we're gonna switch subjects here a little bit, okay? And have you either of you ever felt, because there's some celebrating of what's happening here with Charlie Kirk and that whole situation there. We don't have to get too deep in that specific situation, but have either of you, and I think Heather, you told me this, you have dealt with somebody who's violent to the point they were actually celebrating somebody else's violence? Have you either of you ever dealt with something like that?
Mhm.
Yes,
I mean, I work with NFL players, so that's
part of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, my question here, I wrote it down. What's actually happening in the brain of someone who glorifies violence?
Mm.
Well, I'm going to get annoying here because, you know, glorify and violence are two very subjective things we're dealing with, right?
Mhm.
So I think that when someone glorifies something that we would hope that a human being would have horror towards, there's going to be a high degree of depersonalization. So they're not
Mhm.
seeing, if you see someone being hurt, there is a human empathic attunement and response to that, and an entanglement that should happen, that we should say, I can imagine feeling hurt, or I bet that's hurtful, or, but when we don't have that, there could be several reasons we don't have it. Okay. None of them good. But we've got a culture now that has habituated to levels of violence never before dealt with. Human beings just typically don't have that kind of level of constant inundation of violence, violent games, violent images, violent rhetoric. And when that becomes habituated in us, we're not going to get the same chemical reaction or noxious response to something. Okay. And so when we're looking at something that maybe should elicit some kind of, oh my God, that's terrible, but our response is the exact opposite of it, there's always a biological and neurobiological reason for it. We're getting a hit of something. The fact that it's twisted to giving us a hit of pleasure, or of relief, is the problem that we need to look at. But that's such an individual answer that it's impossible to say why anyone would respond like that to anything. But I can say, like, I remember as a kid, there was, I think one of the Rocky movies came out, and I probably snuck out and went to the movie like at midnight when it, came out. And I think I was like in downtown St. Louis. I think we were staying there because my dad had a game the next day or whatever. So I was like in a rough area as a 16-year-old idiot going to see this movie at 1 a.m. So the crowd was a different crowd than probably typical.
Sure.
And I remember a point in the movie where one of the characters was getting the hell beat out of him, very graphic. And I was, saddened, horrified, whatever. And everybody was standing up, yelling and screaming at the screen, cheering. And I looked over at my friend that was with me. I'm like, bro, we got to get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
But I realized, like, it's easy to get whipped into a frenzy. You can see this on grand scales with what happened in Nazi Germany. And there are several things that have to happen to get us to a point where we can do that. And our society has done a great job of habituating all of us to a horrific degree of acceptance in interpersonal attacks and violence, in disrespect for another person's just sovereignty as a human being. That we all need to do a much better job personally and in our house, making sure that that is pointed out and that it is 100% not tolerated.
Heather, do you think there's a dopamine release or reward?
Yeah, I got a little bit different spin on this. So first, Debbie Ford was one of my favorite first authors. She kind of really dove into a lot of the shadow work and the uglier side of human beings. She wrote in one of her books, I can't remember, she got herself to come to a place where she could be a cold-blooded killer, a pedophile, through context, through different things, like not to justify it, but rather bring it, like we all have a murder within us. Like this is like her mindset. We all have this or that, like in one way, shape, or form. And then I go into like our primal aspects of being animals, hunters and gatherers, right? There's an aspect like for a woman wants her man to be masculine in the sense where he is a cold-blooded killer and soft, right? The polarity, the contrast. So there's some erotic likeness. Like if you look at certain movies or even like some sexuality stuff, there's like elements of violence with it that's provocative. And
or people who get married in prison, right? Same thing.
Right. And then exactly. But we're desensitized. Hell, I mean, that's what you were getting at there, is like this desensitization. When I mean, as a teacher and being terrified of a shooter, like when I taught for 10 years, I'm now to a place where I see something and I go, meh, like that's how my body reacts. It's so sad. And I'm like, I literally shame myself. Like, why do I feel this way? I'm desensitized to it. And I feel helpless and powerless. And maybe it's a way of coping. So I don't live in fear with my children being in school. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yes. And then the last thing I wrote down, there's a word for it, and I don't know what it is, if you can help, but it's like a biological thing that happens when people feel good when bad things happen to people. I don't know what it is. They actually have this like they feel good. And that's on a smaller one, like, oh, that person I'm jealous of got a speeding ticket level. But that happens in this political divide stuff, like on a bigger scale.
Right. And I think that, every part of human behavior, even maladaptive human behavior, we can look at as either we are pleasure seeking or pain avoiding. And sometimes those two things get mixed up a little bit. But I think that when we can rally around someone else's pain, it really begets us to start to look at the fact that we must have pain in a place or in a pocket of our life that feels so impossible to tackle or so beyond help, that just a relief of that pain by seeing it displaced elsewhere feels good. It's like when something hurts so bad that you almost press on it to get a relief of the experience. It's the level is so high that anything is going to make
Mm.
it feel like a relief, even if it's something negative.
Mm.
So, I think we're all walking around with very full buckets of stress,
Mhm.
and full buckets of pain and loneliness and feeling misunderstood and feeling afraid, that when we see it externally, it feels like, oh, we can control it a little bit.
Mhm.
I'm seeing it happen and it's not happening to me for once. So thank God. So there's this immediate, sequence of reactions that we
Mhm.
have based on the fact that we're locked down in pain and in fear.
That's a great
Or it's
perspective.
relatable, right? Or you see somebody else suffering, like, okay, good. I'm not the only person out here who's experiencing this, and now I can.
Mm.
It's like when we see somebody at the top who is being challenged by something in life, and like, okay, well, fuck, if they can go through something like that, then
Mm.
I feel normal now. I feel more
Mhm.
normalized that person there who seems to have
Mm.
it all is
Right.
experiencing something that I may have a small dose of, but hey, I feel better knowing I'm not alone in this
Mm.
in this fight or struggle.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the Jerry Springer effect, right? When you watch people that are just extra
Clowns.
batshit crazy, you don't feel as batshit crazy.
So
Like,
that's why I like
at
that
least
show,
I'm
huh?
not, at least I'm not eating, my dead spouse's ashes.
Right. Oh God.
Bruh.
Really?
Right.
Was that an episode? I missed
Yeah,
that one.
not of Jerry Springer. It was like some other thing where it's like exposing the worst of the worst or the craziest of the
That was so
crazy.
Yeah.
funny.
And I think that, for me, I've always had ridiculous amounts of empathy, so much so that, it can feel consuming.
Yeah.
And so I can understand or explain or imagine how a person can get to a point where they
Mhm.
do horrific things.
Same. Yeah.
It doesn't mean it's okay. It
Right.
doesn't mean I'm not against, hey, sorry, come back in another life and try again. That's not cool. But I can understand it, but it
Right.
doesn't, it's not an excuse. I think a lot of us aren't flexible enough or don't have enough of buffers to do that. And so we can look at someone else and see something terrible. There's something in our head that says, wait a minute, that person's human, I'm human. That means I could get to some place that I would do that? No, 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 no. So I'm going to make that person a different species. I'm going to make that person a monster because I don't want to even contemplate that I could get to a point where I can.
Mhm.
I can
Right.
understand where people get to a point where they do horrific things, and that makes logical or psychological sense, but it doesn't mean I'm afraid I'm going to do that.
Ever? You've never been in a situation where like, oh shit, I just can't believe it. We all have those thoughts, right? But you never had a situation like, I can't even believe like Heather, you probably can relate to this. When I was standing in the mirror with that gun in my hand, that was death. I was thinking about literally
Mhm.
contemplating killing myself.
Mhm.
And that's probably about the closest I ever got to those dark, deep thoughts, the
Mhm.
knife, the pills, the gun. But there's some people who have that thought and feeling towards somebody else. And I guess when they come to you with that thought, how do you talk them off the ledge? Or how do you help them deal with that? Because obviously, sometimes I can't control that. Is that fair to say? Like, I can't believe
Mhm.
I'm thinking this way. I don't like it, but here's my thoughts. I'm being honest with you. If you either of you ever dealt with something like that?
I have, and like, first of all, I am the least judgmental person you'll ever meet. And that is a sense of being in close proximity with an individual who isn't judging you. Because even if somebody's like facial expression, where if like my eyebrows would rise or I go, kind of do this or anything like that when they're describing something, it's like, I was too much. That was too scary. I shouldn't have said it, right? I don't have that. And that's one of my greatest things is I and witnessing in close proximity, not making somebody out to be wrong or bad. I had this a client of mine who, when I go into these journeys inside and they're describing to me things they're seeing and doing, it can be very much like the most scary movie you've seen or some of these terrible things. Like think dreams mixed with nightmares and blah blah blah. And it could be symbolic, it could be this, it could be that. and it really doesn't matter per se. It's more of what's being felt in the body, what is being revealed, what is this, bringing us to, and we follow that thread.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's witnessing. It's not trying to fix it. It's not trying to, not judging it, not trying to offer something, but allowing you to sit and in it. So
And I think that I think we are afraid of our thoughts,
mhm.
and having a space to be able to express a very maybe terrifying or what you might judge horrible thought, and being able to not react in a way that makes that person think the thought is going to equal the behavior.
Mhm.
No. And it's okay to have any kind of thought. You don't have to be afraid of a thought. You can
Especially if you have
control your
intrusive thoughts. Those are the things too. Intrusive thoughts are scary, like
They are
plain
scary.
and simple. And it's usually violent, it's sexual. It's like, I remember when I was younger sitting in church and being and like thinking the most god awful things, like, wonder what happened if da, 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 da." And then teaching people about the fact that we inherit some stuff from our folks. We inherit stuff from their trauma. It may not even be yours. Right. Like,
Right.
so let it go. If you can get like, let it come in and swipe it away.
Okay. No, Heather, let me go back. Let me circle back to that. Give somebody an example, because they're freaking out. They're having a god awful thought right now, and you just said it's okay. So give them an example of thought you were having in church.
Oh, I had a lot where like let's say they had these like long candlesticks or like a thing where they had flames on them, and I'm like, I just would see them start on fire. Just I'd see them trip and fall and break their neck, choke on the, like, let's say it's the blood of Christ, but it was really blood, and then they choked on it and died. It was a lot
Okay.
of stuff like that.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And
You
then,
know, when
and
when
Erin,
we
hold on. I'm gonna second, because I here's what I have for you, Erin, because you have an incredible power of being able to predict things. We've shared this before. If you feel comfortable sharing a story with us about how you've actually predicted something, can we talk about something that you actually experienced before?
Mhm.
Go
Yeah.
ahead. And then then I have a follow-up question to that. So go ahead, share, because I don't know if Heather even knows this. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I mean, I usually don't talk about it. So okay, so I'm just going to do an example, and I don't think that this is some mystical magical thing. I think that our nervous system and our brains clock a lot of behaviors, things, facts,
Mhm.
situations that we're not aware that we have all this knowledge in the back of our head. We can't be. It would, it would overwhelm us.
Mhm.
So we don't, consciously have access to it. But I think sometimes it all comes together and we make a prediction, or we say something that we think might happen or have a probability of happening based on a bunch of information that our brain has clocked, but we haven't, consciously registered. So that's my way of explaining this and not being a weirdo. But
No, the car
Well,
accident. You already talked about the car accident in the last podcast. Can you just bring that up again, or no?
wait, what did I?
The car accident. That the
What?
one of your kids are supposed to be in the car.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, having a bad, I didn't predict what would happen, but I had a bad feeling that if my kids
Mhm.
went out that night, something bad would happen. And
Mhm.
I didn't have any rational explanation. So I didn't let them go. And, within 20 minutes of me not letting them go, the kids that they were going to be in a car with crashed and they burned alive. And but that one I don't have explanation for as much.
But
No.
the thing is, what I hear right off the gate is this. So every human being has like psychic uh, capabilities. We are born that way. I swear to you, it is through conditioning, programming, and whatnot. Believe, like, because there is no quantifiable, right, like scientific explanation of why we have these things. It's intuition. It's our gut. It's our true north. It's God. It's universe. Whatever you want to call it. And I believe that we're coming back to a place of that, and we don't have to explain it, right? It's just and when you trust that, like my kids, I help foster their intuition, and
Yeah.
they can tell when I'm walking in the door. They know when I'm calling. They know bad things are going to happen. They look at a house and go, yuck, there's like someone died in there.
Yeah.
And I say, you never ever deny that, ever, because that is the truth.
Yeah. Yeah,
you know, and
I
that's
think
what I believe with that.
fostering that is very important. The one thing I was going to say though, Brett, is like, for example, there was a time when I was with the football team, and I was late to catch a flight. I was out on the practice field, and I was like, I gotta go. And I just kept having this thing. And so I ended up just calling the player over on, like, stop, come here. I said, just be careful of your left hamstring. I don't know. I gotta go. I can't sit here and try to figure out why. Please be careful. And, I left, and that practice tore.
Damn.
And called me right away. It was like, the trainer was like, what was going, were you watching? Was he pulling, toward the, I'm like, no logical explanation for this whatsoever. None.
I have those things all the time, and it's a beautiful gift. And when you say like, and a curse,
Yeah.
but saying like, without being a weirdo. And then like, it's just because we, like, our society instill like, oh, you're a witch, wizard, or, some sort of woohoo. I stopped doing that. I was like, yeah, well, it is what it is. Take it or leave it, man. It's usually really solid advice and good, um, for the most part. And you can't, but I was going to say mine is in illnesses. I can look at somebody and it is the weirdest thing. I'll be like, oh, you have da 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 da. And it's always spot on. And like the
Wow.
doctors will just be like, how did you know that? Or what is this? And where did you? And I'm like, just know.
Yeah. I mean,
And finding things.
There's
And finding things.
Group of people that have something called, they're medical intuitives is what they call
Yes.
themselves.
Yep.
And there are people that teach how to do that and how to increase any skill set. Like, you might not be born as someone that has a capacity for it necessarily, but there are ways that they've systematically figured out how to increase your ability to be able to do that, even for physicians that might not feel that way at all. So,
Cool.
I think that science and technology have gotten to a place where we're able to measure things that previously we weren't even aware existed. And so what is interesting is that sometimes the most cutting edge neuroscience or technology, quantum physics and nanoparticles, all of a sudden we're starting to have rational explanations of things
Thank
that
goodness.
used to be mystical or used to be seen as otherworldly, but maybe we just didn't have the tools to measure those vibrations and those different means of accessing information.
Super interesting. All right. I want to switch gears here. I'm going to switch gears here for a second. All right. So here's, I want to bring this to your attention. I'm going to share something with you that was brought to my attention by my cousin. And I want to know your honest opinion. And that's why I'm sharing this with you. And she probably is not the only one feeling this way. Okay. My cousin Denise, little backstory here. She's the one who actually talked me up the ledge when I was going through suicidal depression. She was there for me. And she actually said, I said, Denise, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to live. And she said, you're not going to kill yourself. You're going to get through this. And when you get through it on the other side, you'll be helping so many people. It's going to blow your mind. So, I mean, that was her prediction when I was drowning in depression. So here I am sharing my story and trying to make a difference. So I get this text from her the other day. I like to suggest something, and I only want you to think about this and not even comment back right now. It's worth repeating because I touched on this before. I do like the BFKNBOLD title or handle you have, but would love, all caps, love it more if you didn't use the F word in its entirety. I think in this case, less is more because everybody knows what you mean, but sometimes the volume of the actual fuck is even louder than the rest of the sentence is saying. If you never use the F word again, everyone would still get your point. Then if you were questioned about it, your answer could be the F stands for whatever descriptive you want. Frig, fuzz, freaking, fungu. I think you have more sensitive followers if you could omit it for a while, for a few months. Do your own little test. I've wanted to forward this to some people, and a few of them have said, Denise, I can't get past the F word so much, and I know you're, and she says, and I know you don't care, or you may say maybe they're not your audience, but you never know. You maybe You're missing people by saying this. I don't know if anyone else has questioned you about this, but anyway, that's my opinion. I think that you value it. I wish you consider it. And I'm doing this always from a place of love. And maybe you're also being watched by some of the Joe Dispenza social media headhunters, and it could be put off to some. Pretty sure you like to hear from them, especially since it was a huge part of your surfacing. Hugs and love, Denise. Now, I sent her back. Thank you. Always appreciate your feedback. I've noticed just by self-observation that when I first started posting back in January, it was more raw, more intense, more sensitive. Now that I've been sharing, expressing my experience, I feel it hasn't been as raw with every post, but there are still moments that I'm expressing myself in a very transparent, real way. I think this would be a great on-air conversation that would get some feedback and responses from followers. Let me know when you're available. No response from her on that. We have talked since then, but that never was brought up again. So both of you, I know, are very colorful in your language at times, and you don't hold back. And this is just who you are. My thing is, and I've explained this to her before and my family before, because I've been questioned about it. Why be fucking bold? Because that's my story. That's the battle I was in. And that's the approach I had to take to save my life. No one else's, but my experience. And that's where it's coming from. So on the other side of it, you see my post, you hear my story. Erin, you're no stranger to the F word. What's your thoughts on this?
My dad was a baseball player, and then his second life, he started to be the color announcer for the team. So he was on the radio.
Give him his name. Tell people give him the name.
Mike Shannon. And so people would, like athletes especially, would be like jaw dropped. He would be able to use all kinds of very colorful language, and he was a master at spinning colorful language. And then in a blink of an eye, as soon as he's back on the radio, never, ever, ever miss a beat. And there were times when he'd be down in the clubhouse and he'd be interviewing somebody for like a star of the game after the game, and they'd be telling a story together before, they went live. And he's in the middle of a story and he's MFing this and, CS this and then blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, okay, and we're on. And the player's still like not used to switching set like that, right? And so the player's still in that locker room. I'm just talking to Mike and blah, blah, blah. And the player will say something and my dad's like, we're live on the air. Like 48 states in this country. Just heard you say that, bro. So for me, I think that my ability to speak to a human being, I need to be able to match them where they're at. I need to be able to go from, a locker room or a prison or talking to veterans who just came, out of a horrible battlefield, and they've got a way of expressing themselves that makes them comfortable. And sometimes we use language to make ourselves, feel buffered against. But if I go into a conversation with someone and I use language that they would consider immoral or off-putting, that's a problem for me, because I've just impacted my ability to attune to this person and make them feel safe and comfortable. That's different from, if I'm out socially, being able to express myself in the way that it feels best. But I will tell you that, I've had experiences, like I was doing this thing where I was, as more of an energetic healing capacity, not as a shrink. And it was with a bunch of Native American tribes. And one of the grandmothers gave me my Indian name or something, right? Because I'm Cherokee Indian. And I asked what it meant. And she said, well, someone else said, because she didn't speak, she said, it means she who flies too close to the earth. And I didn't quite understand everything about that. But then later, people were telling me that some of the things that I do, the tendencies that I have that might appear gruff or rough or off-putting are actually my way of grounding myself, because a lot of what I do seems to be, floating up here, and I have to ground myself. And I think that it's the same way when, I'm trying to explain something that maybe some people would use in a spiritual way or in a mystical way. And I try to explain it with science because I want to stay grounded. It's easy
Right.
to, float off into the ethers, but I got kids to feed, and I got work to do, and so I think sometimes our language can be used to strengthen, to make us feel stronger when we might be uncomfortably vulnerable or soft. And I think it is something that is always going to impact other people. And we just have to be aware of it and decide what we want to do. Do we want, and I was actually, when you started reading this, I was trying not to smile, because I was actually going to ask you about that in private and just ask you, like, do you still feel the need to be at war with that story and that experience, or can you be more comfortable interacting with it?
Yeah, that's a great question. And like I said in the beginning of when I first was fresh coming out of it, I started posting. It was all raw. It was all raw and real, and it was just still so close to me that I hate the truth. The truth is, I literally hated how I felt. I couldn't stand it. I just was fucking, like I said, I just was miserable and tired, sick and tired of feeling sick and tired. So coming out of that, start posting, it was fresh. Now that I've been doing this for, I don't know, I started in January, so not quite a year yet. I'm at a point now, like I told her in that text message, that I feel that I've gotten a lot of that out of my system, but there's still times that I just feel like, okay, this point needs to be driven home, and the explicitive is going to help do that. But I don't think it's out of context. I don't feel when I'm saying this that I'm just dropping F-bombs just to drop them. I feel that there's meaning behind each of the things that I'm saying, and I'm hoping that people are getting it's landing where it's making a difference in somebody's life.
And I think that second part, that hoping that it lands in a place, when you're coming from a place where something is so extraordinarily painful, we need to put like a frame around it sometimes. And I think that you're very aware of what you're saying and how you're saying it. And that, okay, that's going to isolate. There's going to be a lot of people that don't resonate with that. And at this point, you're okay with it because it still feels authentic to you, and you feel like modifying it would be less authentic. Does that make sense? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. It wouldn't be being true to myself if I'm doing it for somebody else to attract more followers, but not really being authentic and sharing my story, the real rawness of it. I would be, there's a word for that, hypocritical, or not being genuine, authentic.
Yeah.
All right, here's my spin. First and foremost, I don't take advice from people who aren't going where I'm going. One, right? I get her intention and all of that, but the problem isn't the problem. It's something with her, right? Like I always, it's this reflection, something about that word bothers her. And that's just my opinion on that. And from my experience, I had, like, for a friend to become a follower, you have a better chance of a follower becoming a friend. When we do this work, it's my own, back in the day, my own parents laughed at me about what I was doing. They thought it was the dumbest thing they've ever heard. They made fun of me, they doubted me, all the things. And we have to keep going. Authenticity is the highest vibration that that we can emit from. And they used to think it was love. It's authenticity. And you have to go through self-love, which, in order to get to authenticity, you have to love and know who you are and have that deep sense of self. So that's why I say, from the very beginning, we gave our kids one swear word a day, and they got to use it however they wanted, because it was an issue. The more I said don't, they did it, right?
Yeah.
And I said my only rule is it can't be out of anger or to hurt anybody. And I'll never forget the first time my daughter used it and she chose the F word. She was like 3 years old, and we dug a bunch of holes, or the kids dug a bunch of holes in the sand in Florida. in a beach, and she goes, she had a little list, like, and she goes,
Oh, that's the
"Can I
best.
use?" Yeah, I know. She's like, "Can I use my one swear word of the day?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she goes, "Someone's gonna walk by and say, 'Who dug all these fucking holes?'" And I was just like, "Yeah, girl," and like,
A great
it was
use of that
perfect.
word. It's a great use.
Exactly. And I've never, I believe there's a meaning behind it, and that's the reason that it can get out of context all over the place. And they have the most high vernacular, my children, because of me. Swear words are low vibe words. It's like, in a sense, but it can be so impactful.
Yeah.
My mentor, one of my mentors, he that got me over my fear of professional speaking. I was like, "How do I get over this? How do I get over this?" He's like, "You don't." And he never really swore. He was like, he went to the seminary, he's old. He's like, "When you feel that feeling of fear and that just about to eat you up," he goes, "That's when you know you're fucking ready."
See?
And that literally got me over the fear. I was like, "That's when I'm fucking ready." And so on I went.
And
Well,
two things I want to say really quick. That it was a great point when you said friends to followers, followers, friends. I my social media IQ is like minus 215 pretty much. And so like, I don't have, people are like, "What's your strategy?" I'm like, "Bro, I don't know. I saw a funny ass thing and I shared it because it was funny." Bad strategy. That's not a strategy. So I have no strategy. But I was listening to somebody talking about strategy, right? And they said, if you're going to start, an account and you want to start making money or something from an account, which I don't make money off my accounts at all, because I don't know what I'm doing, then you need to block everybody that you know. And I didn't quite understand it. And then when they went into the logistics of it, it's because the people that you know have a schema and a perception of you that fits in a box, and they cannot resonate with something different. So if you want to continue, like say I'm going to start doing something on social media to make money, but at the point I started, I'm not making money. So if I want to start something and have a vibration of money or wealth or value, and I'm starting at a place of I'm poor, I can't attract the value, right? And so it's like when we start somewhere, if we want to be known for where we are starting, then great, tell the people that know you, because they'll continue to keep that understanding. But if we want to build something that we're not there yet, it will be very difficult for the people that already know us to be able to see that process. And so sometimes we have to keep that away from them.
Yeah.
And it's just like why you can be.
Well, Gary V was the one that, I mean, he's a huge one. Like, why do you source one? He's like, this because it's who I am. I don't know how to be anybody else, and I'm not going to do it, like, straight away. And there's lots of coaches out there that swear, and I love them. It makes me feel like I'm on their resonance, like you said. And there's someone out there for everybody.
right.
There's a coach, a mentor, a peer, somebody out there for everybody. And if it isn't in resonance alignment, it's okay. If you try to market to everybody, you're going to market to nobody.
You're done. Yeah.
You need to stay. That's a beautiful thing. And it's just, yeah.
And if we've had success, it's easier to do, isn't it? If we have, things that bolster us, that we can say, well, I've got this degree, or I've done it before and I was myself. But it's very hard to go into something new and be yourself and not think I need to be more like Joe Dispenza or Wayne Dyer or Tom Landry or whatever. So it is very hard to do when you're just starting or when you're starting something new. And that has to be acknowledged too,
And I've said this before, that I've been, not this design, but the one that's actually stacked, not the horizontal design, but the BFKNBOLD. I've been in place. I was at a Costco somewhere when I was traveling across country. I walk in Costco, and the general manager of Costco, well put together, businesswoman, suit, everything. And she stops me and says, "I love that T-shirt." I said, "You know what it stands for?" She goes, "Yeah, BFKNBOLD." I'm like, right. So it's not like I've gotten stopped so many times with that other T-shirt on. People want work, and I get that T-shirt. So, and that's number one. Number two is, Heather, I have you on one of the podcasts saying, look, I'm going to talk the way I want to talk. And this kind of got in a little bit of a conversation with you and Joe, because I think you were talking that way. And he says, can you kind of cut back?
front of
And you
his
say, I'm going to
kids.
talk to, right? His kid in front of the kids. And that's just who you are. So that's your stance. You pretty held strong to that. Here's my thing. The same people that are telling me not to say, be fucking bold, and they're questioning it, they're the same people I talk to on the phone that are dropping F-bombs every other sentence. So just because I have the balls to do it on air or in public, and you're hiding behind the phone, talk to me that way.
That's exactly it is.
Right. So, I mean, my cousin Denise, she's no stranger to the F word, believe me.
Yeah.
And my dad, same thing. People who say, Brett, why be fucking like,
because it's a condition in programming that people think you can't be professional. Like same thing with like tattoos and piercings. Now doctors are coming in with neck tattoos. It's like we're coming out of that it has to fit this mold, be this polished version to be successful and be like accepted into whatever. But the matrix is becoming offline. We're going into this place of authenticity and there, and it's like, again, yours again, I can't stress this enough, the energy behind the way you say it and certain things makes all the difference, because we've all been around that one person who drops the F-bomb so many times and it's dense and low and gross and you just can't wait to get away from it. There's a huge difference.
I thought so too. I mean, I'm not. I don't want to just go out there and say, "Hey, I'm the F guy. I'm abusing it." No, I'm going to tell. I'm going to tell a story, and if that part of the story needs a little emphasis because of how I'm feeling, then that's the word I'm going to choose, whether it's that word or another word. That's just who I am. Go ahead, Erin.
Truthfully, look, if you're looking at the psychology of marketing, right, and brand awareness and things like that. People pay attention to certain things. They pay attention to novelty. They pay attention to things that are shocking. They pay attention. We've got all kinds of psychological reasons behind why certain brands use certain colors and repetition of seeing something over and over again. So you're not going to please everybody. And two, if the intention behind something continues to resonate with how you feel, then you're going to be more likely to continue to do it and be better at doing it. And so until you feel like it doesn't resonate anymore, then you should do it. And with flexibility being, you're not going to go into,
high school.
Exactly.
Church and start rolling out the F-bombs, even though, maybe a lot of people in there think them in their head. You have to know your audience. And if you're trying to spread a message to as many people as you can, you might have to adapt a bit, but you don't have to change your authentic self. And there's a way to do that feels right to you.
Yeah. And Heather, you said something great a couple of podcasts ago. You said there's intention and there's attention. Remember you saying that to me?
Yep.
And intention behind what you're saying. Are you doing it with an intention, or you just try and get attention? I love that.
Exactly.
So, and the people that are, I mean, it's cringy nightmare. Like I have seen so many people, professional sports, they'll come in and they're trying to assimilate to a locker room of people. And so they start to talk in a way that you can tell doesn't it ain't bro. And so right. and the people that can tell it the most are the people that's their vernacular. And so it is toxic to have somebody that's faking it because it feels like a dog. So there are certain audiences that it's easy for me to be what I feel like is more of my authentic self, or like the language and the talking that I do in my head, just my running commentary about myself and my life, feels like it can come out and there's no screening of that.
Filter. Yeah.
Other people that I'm really screening myself because I know that they're going to misinterpret the language I use.
And that is just a smart emotional attunement, right? Of being into a space. I used to do hospice work, and those elderly folks there was a few that had mouths like sailors, right? And I would just be able to do that with them. Then the next is like the clutching a rosary, and it's like you have to, in the sense of the like you said, know your audience, but you can in your head in
Oh,
that
yeah.
moment be like, "Ugh," it's like that's kind of how I cope with it
Sure.
Right.
100%.
if
And
needed.
I had a patient the other day, and this patient's job is unbelievably dark, and this is what this person does, which is amazing, and the purpose they serve on earth is incredible. And they were actually like, okay, here is what I'm dealing with on a daily basis, and the amount of stress and pressure that this person had on a daily basis to keep the lives of millions of people safe was stupid. It was stupid and
Wow.
inhuman, right? And so he's kind of trying to say, how can I do this the best I possibly can? And then when I walk out of the office, be a normal person. Well, that's absolutely impossible because
Mm.
you're doing something that normal people cannot do. So you've got to give yourself a little bit of grace to realize this is inhuman and impossible, and I am killing it. And wow. And I might not fit in with a lot of people outside of here because the difference between who I am in my job and who I am at home or socially is going to be so exhausting to make that flip that I'm going to feel inauthentic and alone out here. So sometimes the difference between either your job or your authentic self and the environment that you're trying to assimilate into, when that's too big of a gap, it can cause distress and
Sure.
dysfunction internally. So, the more you can make your when you get to choose who you're around, right? We can't choose our family. Sometimes we can't really choose our job or our audience. The more you can make that an easier transition, the better. And sometimes the transition is extreme, professional sports. You want to go from having to get yourself to a place where you want to physically maim them.
Yeah.
You got to get yourself to that place or else you're going to get maimed. Okay.
Kill or be killed.
That's right. And then before you even get off the field, hey, can we do an interview? Can we talk to you about this? And now boop, you're going to talk to someone that is broadcasting to hundreds of millions of people sometimes. And you have to get to a place where you can speak. And then 30 minutes after that, you're hugging your little kids and your wife, your sweet wife. And we get soldiers that are in the front lines of battle. And the same day, we have the technology to get them on a plane and back home, and now go home and enjoy your 2 weeks off. What?
Switching
Right?
gears pretty quick.
Sometimes it is impossible.
It's not realistic.
It's impossible to do it. And so, developing anything and everything that my job, I think, is to develop everything I can to help this person have tools to make impossible adjustments in time. And if they know they can make those impossible adjustments, if they know they have a trick or some kind of template to use, then it's much less energy that is spent feeling like they're holding back the beast. They know it's okay to let it out here. And this is when I'm letting this out, because we all have these things in our head. Like you said, how they're like, when we all have the capacity to do terrible things, we might not be in touch with that as much as certain people, but we do have that capacity, and understanding that helps us to not be afraid of it. And being afraid of it can actually increase it.
Speaking about being afraid, that was good closing words from you, Erin. And then I'm going to go to Heather for a second, because I just remembered I saw a post of you, and this is completely vulnerable. You were on TikTok, and you were showing off. You had your shirt up, not off. You were wearing a shirt, but you had it up, right? And you're showing off your baby scars.
Me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Heather.
Oh yeah.
You.
Yeah. Okay.
Talking about being vulnerable. So I mean, Erin just
Yes.
said you have to switch gears and you have to be authentic. And at the same time, you were being authentically vulnerable. And, you know,
Yeah.
before we wrap this up, I need you to just touch upon that for a bit, because people out there who are they're hiding that stuff right now. And you were out there
Yeah.
showing it off.
Vulnerable
Yeah.
or powerful. That's
Yeah.
what I have to say.
Exactly.
There's
So I realized in that, okay, so I, again, back to that kind of like hypocrite or that kind of energy, I was like, dang, I always pose this way and this way in my pants. I'm just showing like my abs or whatever. I'm like, I have significant stretch marks, and I had my emergency appendectomy when I was 32 weeks pregnant. So my stomach's kind of guard up, and I had 3 9-pound babies. And I am proud of them myself, really, but I thought like I was afraid of being judged or people thinking they're ugly. So I just like flipped down my pants and I was like, look at this, you know? And I tied it to emotional wounds and trauma and those things, and how we believe that if we hide them, if we suppress them, if we swipe them away, we reject all of that, that we are somehow, that's the martyr, you know, the noble person. And what we resist, it will persist, and then it comes out. And back to that, like I love practicing equanimity or emotional sobriety, because it's knowing how and when to utilize these certain attributes, right? So if you need to be the Hulk in this space, you can, and if you need to be the gentle giant here, you can. But we have to practice
yes.
that and know our edges. So I like to put myself I like to bring myself to my own vulnerable edges, and I do it for 2 reasons. Intentionally for myself, our own healing. As Brett, I want to say, what you're doing is so healing for yourself, and I know you know that. That's why you're going to evolve out of your, you know, I am an individual who lives with suicidal depression. That story is going to like stop someday, in a sense. It's going to
Mm,
evolve into something else, because you just won't identify with it anymore, period, through
right.
this process. But going back though to like the vulnerability aspect, I have to show mine in order for other people to show me theirs. Or I choose to, rather. I choose to. That has been the secret to my success, is everybody's got a story, everybody's got a vulnerability, shame, you know, guilt, whatever. And I'm just going to show you mine, not in a sense of anything other than like, listen, I want to build camaraderie and solidarity with you, and make you, you know, bring a container of safety. Here's what I'm going through. Like this, look at my scars. And they're like,
Yeah.
want to see mine?
No, that was
You
very
bet
brave.
I
That was
do.
very brave of you. You know, that gives people
Thank you.
permission gives people permission who are feeling apprehensive, you know,
Mhm.
to say, okay, well, she did it. I don't feel so, I know bad about how I feel about myself. But what got you to that?
Mhm.
You know, it doesn't just happen like this. Is it like, were you thinking about doing this for several months or a
No,
week, or just on the
I,
whim that you just did it?
yes. So everything that comes out most of the time, I'm kind of like experiencing it at the same time as most folks are, in this sense. Like so many people that I follow, they're like, "Oh, I wrote this and put this out there and took it down." I have never done that, because it's like once it's out there, it's the truth. It's out there. Like I don't sit and be like, "Oh my gosh, go back, look, whatever." And it's Mel Robbins years ago she's like, this is how I roll. And it was a picture of her belly like rolling over her pants. And I thought that was so freaking cool. Again, Brene Brown, all of this stuff. And you're right, it is a process, but more so when you know who the hell you are, so like strong and confidently, you have your own perception, your own sense of love, all these things, right? It doesn't matter what anybody says or thinks at all. Like
That's
they may
real.
think it's ugly, they may think
That's
it's this that, and I am okay with how they choose. Anybody chooses to view that.
Right.
I'm not attached. So
yeah.
that gives you a lot of confidence in that sense. It's like,
And
okay, cool.
freedom.
Because
And
people say
freedom
some
too.
mean stuff. Let me tell you.
Oh, you got some really rude
Oh,
responses to that, did
oh,
you?
well, it goes into like a weird filter. Like now it'll say you get to like approve it. Not that one particularly, but when I talk about my divorce, a lot of
No.
people, a lot of like it's always men from my experience, but they're like, you're just a home wrecking cheater, and they don't know anything. It's just a projection of their own lives. But
Yeah.
it's entertaining to me at the least. And I know that hurt people hurt people. So I go, okay.
Yes.
Yeah. And hey, if I were you, I'd feel the same way, but I'm not you. I mean, that's all I can say. I can't argue with anybody.
Yeah.
That's their point. That's their
No,
opinion. And if I were you, I'd
exactly.
feel the exact same way as you feel, wouldn't I? But I'm not you. But I
Yep.
accept how you feel. Let's move on. That's it. That's all I
Yeah.
can
I
do.
just say thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. Take care then. Bye now.
Yeah,
Erin,
one of my favorite
go ahead.
things is I had a player that used to, that was a great player and rough and on the field. And every time that he would just have a great hit and somebody's laid out, he'd help them up and bless them, you know, truck somebody, like bless them, you know. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Yeah, sure.
Bless
Right.
and release, bless and
Yeah,
release.
it was him reminding himself that if he did everything in, you know, in the name of God and to glorify God, then he was, everybody he touched, he blessed.
There you go.
Sweet. I like that.
Love it. All right, let's go ahead, wrap it up here. Final advice, Erin. What do you want people to remember the most? The bold nugget from this interview, like, hey, take this with you and start applying it today.
Oh man, that's a hard one. You know, I think that just knowing that the more you can be secure in your own self and doing all the work, because it takes work to go do that, the more likely you are to have fulfilling, lasting relationships with others. You've got to have one with yourself, and it's got to be solid.
So true. Heather, you're leaving for India tomorrow. By yourself?
Yeah. Yep. I'm flying into Delhi, doing the Taj Mahal there for a day or two, and then I'm going
solo. No connect. You're not have nobody waiting there for you. The Dalai, nobody's there. Nothing. Just going all by yourself.
Yes.
So we need to have a podcast about that trip. I would love
no
to
doubt.
hear about that.
Yes.
Are you seeking anything?
I'm seeking recalibration in like mind, body, spirit, soul, whatever. I live a very soul-centered life. So when it's called, I planned this a year ago. Like I was like, I'll be a year post-divorce. It's going to be a recalibration. I have a lot of insight and foresight. So I'm like, that's where I got to be.
Yeah.
And it's really just, I surrender to it. I get on that plane when my butt sits in that seat. It's a surrender from there. It's whatever comes. It's, you know, it's for me. So it's life-changing. I've done this a few times.
Yeah.
I started off small by going to Sedona, then I went to Bali, Indonesia, and Europe, and now India. So
first time to India?
Yes.
First time. Is there apprehension? Is there a part of you that's saying, okay, I'm a little apprehensive about taking this long trip by myself? Or are you just like, I'm gonna roll with it? What are you feeling?
I feel really good. I have like my mother instincts of leaving my children for the first time, like in like as a single mother, you know, divorced, whatever. That's different for me for whatever reason, just maternal. But I believe so much that like whatever our life, like if we're following enthusiasm, we're gonna be safe. In the sense of like a conscious enthusiasm, we're gonna be safe. And that I'm guided and protected and loved all the time. Because you tell like a handful of people through the last few weeks, they're like, oh my gosh, you're going to wake up in a, bathtub of ice because someone took your organs. And I'm like, what are you watching?
Probably more likely.
Or I'm roofied and this and that. I'm just like, please, like that doesn't even cross my mind. No, it's going to be awesome. And I'm excited for the version of me that's going to come back because it will be substantially different. I heal a lot of trauma on these trips. My biggest trauma is feeling helpless and powerless. And so I love surrender. That's an edge for me when I get somewhere, like let's say the flight's delayed or I get sick or I don't know, I can't speak the language. I'm like, thank you for giving me this opportunity to grow.
Okay. So you're not having those immortal thoughts that you used to have in church when you were a kid about going to India?
I'm like, what if there's a hot dude that takes me away forever? And I mean, that's what my thoughts are like now.
Sorry, Joe. I mean, she said it on there.
Come back. I know.
So your mindset is not what
could go wrong.
Things could happen, but
it's what can go right.
How much better can it get? Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yep, I am very I always was a very optimistic person. It was pessimism came into my life through trauma and a lot of adversity. I'm a positive person. I'm like, yeah, it's what can go right. And my saying is like, how can it get better than this? It's not, it doesn't, it's how. So I'm always just embodying experiences for them to be fuller and more sensual and more awesome. Whether it's a cup of coffee to, a sunset, or like I said, a hot traveler.
And you had this conversation with me in the past about how you and Joe are kind of in an open so if an opportunity came up in India and Joe's like, yeah, man,
we're
go for it.
We're not in an open relationship. No.
No, but
He
I thought you had
absolutely-
said, wait a minute, let's back up real quickly and then we got to go. But didn't you say in one of the previous interviews that you said he would be okay with you railing under the guy? If it was
No,
no.
that must have been taken out of context. Absolutely not. We are very monogamous, and I think that was what I was talking about, like a threesome or something.
That's what it was. Right.
Yes, that we're open to, like him and I together
Oh,
consensually,
okay. I got you.
etc. But no. Like we both are like dolphins. We're like monogamous maters for life type, and don't cheat. I'm not a cheater in that
Gotcha.
sense. That was totally kidding. Because my integrity, I have a very like my integrity pole is like the stiffest thing in my body.
Nice.
I can't and don't. I would tell you I'm going to break up with you and go F this person.
Yeah.
Goodbye. Like if I were to ever do that, I would never hurt
Betray
somebody in that
somebody.
way.
Good for you.
Exactly.
Good,
Yeah.
good. Well, I love both. I love having you both on here. This is awesome. It was really cool. Did you guys
Yes, I
have?
had a blast.
I
Yeah,
think it was good. I think we got to do it
Yeah,
again.
no,
When you get back from India, like Erin said, you got to have
Let's
this
do it again.
podcast called the Post India
I would
Trip.
love it.
Right.
That would be so cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of wisdom and things to share. And so one little nugget. There is an elder there one of my previous mentors way back in the day. She lived there for 15 years. He goes by, I think she said it's Baba or something like that. I don't know. It's his home, and to get to be in his home and stay in close proximity with this individual is very rare, and not like it's like not equivalent to like the Pope and the Catholic, but right up there, it's like
Yeah.
just being with this individual, like Mother Teresa, let's put it that way. And they, they'll be like working on us, doing yoga, meditation, breath work, and just healing. And there's a couple other healers. They just sporadically come in, do massages, do this. And when I was in Bali last year, it's just wicked, the stuff they know what to do, because they are intent, like it's just through things that have been passed down generation after generation, and then they're fine-tuned. So like she was a chiropractor, a Reiki master, a massage therapist, a chef, a herbalist, and this woman worked on me for 2 hours. I walked out, I thought I was in
Wow.
heaven. It's like, what just happened? They are very embodied and soulful healers in those neck of the woods.
Awesome. All right. So do what you got. You got a nail appointment at 2:00, Heather.
Yes,
and then
yep.
Erin, you got a full day ahead of you too?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah.
Yeah, I bet.
A busy, not busy Saturday.
I get it. Well, here's the
Well,
thing.
Brett, thank you for having us.
Yeah.
I loved it. I appreciate I
great.
appreciate you taking the time with your schedules to make this happen. So it was awesome. We'll do it again. And meanwhile,
All right.
be fucking bold. I'll catch you in the next one. All right, guys.
Bye.
Bye.